Somebody checks the line. Alright. Hello friends, this is Wire Guitars. I'm here to make a video on Brood. I always bounce around between what hero I want to make a guide for next, just because I go through phases. Dota heroes are kind of like, I don't know, PMS, I guess, for me. Not PMS, it's a terrible analogy. I don't know, bipolarism, except I don't just bounce between mania and depression. It's more so like so many different stages, I guess. Multi-personality disorder. I don't know. Depending on whatever hero it feels like I want to spam, I go through phases where I just want to only play that hero, and then I want to learn the hero, and then I want to like give information about that hero to somebody else. I don't know, give like a pseudo dissertation and talk about the hero in length for like several years to some willing individual that would like to learn. But that's all besides the point. Brood's the person we're going to be talking about today. I don't have the webcam on because I don't feel like it's professional. As such, I'll try to also watch my stuttering and my general demeanor. I want to try to keep things brief. I always say that, but this time I mean it, damn it. In all seriousness, I do plan on trying to make this as informational as possible, and to kind of go inside with that, I want to actually just hop straight into a game and talk about the hero as we're going through the picking stage. The reason I'm showing through the picking stage is it's twofold. One, I want to show you that I pick her first because I give absolutely zero craps. This is a rank game. It's a party rank game, but I'm playing against a 6K safe laner, and his supports, I believe, were around the 5 to 4K bracket. I do play her a lot in solo ranked, and actually that's where I have the most success with her. I don't like to play heroes that I spam a lot in solo queue in party ranked because I want to learn new heroes in party ranked. So this was just an exception to that rule, not the norm. That being said, though, like I said, I did pick her. This is a party rank game, so just keep that in mind if you're watching this and you're like, oh man, why are you dumpstering to these players and you're saying this is a 6K player. I did check. The solo laner's MMR was 6K, but who knows, maybe, I don't know, he's the Ursa. It's whatever. What's important here is that I pick her first mostly, and then also that we talk about her for a little bit. So, Brood, I've made several videos about her before, and I understand that maybe there's not a whole lot new that I can bring to the table given how much I've talked about her before, but there's actually a lot that I could bring to the table, and I think this is completely worth your while if you even have any remote interest in Brood and you somehow stumbled upon this video. That being said, I will admit, there's some things that definitely carry over if you've watched my other videos, and which I still do recommend that you do if you haven't watched them as well. Just because I think there's information in those videos that I might not touch up on in this video that deserve their own sort of special mention. That again, like I might not go over them and gloss over them in this video. They are out of date towards the current patch, obviously, because I make a video every patch. But with that being said, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's completely exempt from any sort of truth tables. Like, again, you can find some gems there, and I do highly recommend, if you haven't seen them before, to watch them. But with that being said, this will be somewhat of an intermediate guide to Broodmother. It's kind of assuming that you know the hero a little bit, and you just kind of want to come here, talk about her for 40 minutes, or I guess listen to somebody talk about her for 40 minutes, and maybe conceptualize ideas in your mind and think of like, oh man, he seems like a pretty knowledgeable guy, and then maybe you can give me a comment and feedback, what you think, how you thought about the video, what you think about what I'm telling you, and see if our ideas match up. I want to let you know I have absolutely zero fear picking Broodmother in any situation whatsoever. That includes but isn't limited to first picking her. I don't even ban heroes when I play her, and so I'm going into this video with that as somewhat of a disclaimer. I need to like really emphasize this point to you, whoever this is listening to this video, whether you've played 1,000 Brood games or you've played one Brood game. I give zero craps as to what the enemy's safe lane looks like. I will always go to the off lane myself, and it does not matter if I'm going against Timbersaw, Axe, Legion Commander, the worst of worst tri-lanes, yeah, Meepo, I don't know. You can name any hero right now, and I will not be afraid to go against them and lane against them, because I believe Broodmother, I wholly believe this, Broodmother is, without a hint of doubt in my mind, the strongest laner in the game, like, bar none. There's no one hero that can shut a Broodmother down. It takes a coordinated team and a lot of teamwork. I kind of already said that, but it takes a coordinated team and a lot of effort on the enemy's part to make sure that Broodmother does not have a good game. And if a Brood doesn't have a good game, sure, she's going to be gimped more so than some other heroes, perhaps. That isn't necessarily to say that she can't come back in some sort of way or fashion, but I will grant one this. Broodmother is definitely an item-dependent hero. One sec while I turn the volume down just a little bit because it's really, really loud when I'm talking and I'm trying to talk over it. But yeah, I'll grant you this. Broodmother is definitely item dependent, probably more so than a lot of other heroes in the game. And with that being said, not necessarily level dependent, but she's definitely dependent on having some sort of presence in the early game. So I wouldn't say level dependent. I'd more so say like she's dependent on having some way of making space for her team such that she can then take a lot of space in the early stages of the mid game, where she wants to just kind of split push a little bit. I play this hero a lot more. This is one of the big distinctions if you've seen one of my Broodmother videos in the past, and I say one of because, like I said, I've made a lot of videos on Broodmother. But one of the big distinctions that I've made about my Brood play as of recent is that I am not in any way, shape, or form afraid of grouping with my team when the time's right. I used to play Broodmother as like a Necro 3, Deso, Assault Cuirass, rat hero that I would, the whole game past the 20-minute mark, I was just trying my absolute hardest to get tier 3s and racks, and it was such a struggle. I would fall off because I'd keep dying or I wouldn't be able to farm enough because I was just spending so much time hitting buildings or trying to hit buildings. Using Necro 3, and when I'd use it, I'd feel like the next 90 seconds I just didn't have any room to hit towers because I just couldn't hit them hard enough. And that play style, I think, can be valid if you're super good at doing it and you just don't ever die throughout the entirety of the game. I'm talking like you have the micro of a god to always have 2 to 3 spiders on their own separate hotkeys to scout around for you, because you can't ever die with that playstyle. Even one death sets you back so drastically so, because you give up your streak, you give up all the net worth that you were farming up in their jungle, you give up an immense amount of pressure on the map, such that once you die once, they'll go push your lane, they'll take your tier 1 tower, you'll have nothing to TP back into, no webs to TP back, you have to reformat your webs, they go and they pressure your towers as well, they'll go and take, like, not just your tier 1, but they'll take your team's tier 2s, you know, the mid and the top lane tier 2, for instance, if you're on the Dire like I am in this game. And just in general, I don't necessarily favor the rat playstyle on Broodmother nearly as much as I used to. I want to pause here because I actually kind of want to go back and talk about just a few things in this game. So what I'm really just trying to get away from, that, I guess like that was like my 5th disclaimer, is that I definitely do not mind playing this hero as a team fighter in the mid to late stages of the game. Even the early to mid stages of the game, I have no fear whatsoever grouping with my team and trying to make stuff happen with them as opposed to just by myself. So yeah, with that being said, I know that was a lot to unpackage there of what I just said, but hopefully in this video I can go on to explain what I mean. Right, so 2 things right off the bat just to keep in mind. I don't care who the heck I'm landing against as Broodmother, and also I actually group with my team, which is something I see so few Broodmothers actually do. So let's go on with the video. So we start the game. I don't start every game with the same amount of with the same items or with the same mindset. And what I mean by this is, if I think I'm against a tri-lane, I'll start tangos, sentries, and the recipe for a soul ring. If I think I'm against a solo lane, usually indicated by like an axe, Legion Commander, Timbersaw, etc., so forth, those picks being in the game and a weak like run of supports, like if they have not weak run of supports, like Visage is a good tell of seeing like maybe they'll go for a tri-lane. Basically, if I see a decent carry like a Jug, not a Spectre, maybe a support like a Visage, or a support like I don't know, Disruptor, or just like decent aggressive tri-lane supports, and then they also pick Axe, I'll assume that they're swapping the lanes, and then I'll be against a solo lane. In that case, I'll just start one set of tangos. But for the most part, if you just want to be safe and you don't want to use the courier at the start of the game, because sometimes I get scared using the courier because my mid gets the bounty rune and wants to fly out or ferry out a bottle, or not a bottle. Well, some very rare cases like a Zeus, I don't know. They usually don't go bottle, they go salve. So in the very start of the game, if you want to go kind of the not greedy build but like the safest build possible, you can start tangos and try to confirm your lane opponent or opponents before you buy the rest of your items. So you'll go tangos and then you'll go out and you'll place your starting webs kind of similar to how I did, and you'll look around. You can look around. I'm gonna get out of player perspective here for a second. You can look around. You can like place your webs and then you can walk over here. Man, the game won't pause. You can walk over here and you can try to look around. Maybe you can. Brood's kind of a slow hero. She's 295 movement speed, if I recall correctly. Yeah, it's 295. It's 531 on webs though. She's a 295 base movement speed. So if you get caught out, it can be really scary. Sometimes I like to place one web and then wait for 30 seconds, and that'll be just before the game timer starts. like actually starts the game, and then I'll go over here with one web in hands, and like I'll place a web, and then I'll try to scout out and see whether or not I'm against like a solo axe or a tri-lane. Sometimes you can even steal a bounty rune, but that's kind of risky. If you're against like a solo hero at all, you don't want these items, these two items right here. You want the tangos still. Tangos are very, very helpful for making trades, but if you're against like a timber saw, we will watch a replay. So I almost feel like I shouldn't say this because I can go over all that. Yeah, I'm gonna ignore that because I have time. I'm trying to conserve time. I'm trying to remain brief, and I'm trying to stay informative throughout the entirety of the video. I have a very nice burst of energy right now where I have no problem making the videos entertaining and not entertaining, informative, and in keeping one's attention engaged. I know this is like some serious fourth wall breaking, but just follow me here, okay? If I can just stay on track, this will go a lot smoother. So we'll talk about the item build if you're like going against an axe in a second, but basically I was damn sure I was against a tri-lane. Even though they did pick a Visage, I was like, I don't know, man. I just had that vibe of like, man, this is a 4.8k average game. I doubt that they'll swap lanes and throw like a Magnus or a Jug or some shit like that solo against me. It's probably going to be a tri-lane. Or at the very least, a weakish dual lane with like an Ursa Jungle. I didn't expect them to send. They don't have the typical like Legion, Axe, Timber Saw, solo versus Brood heroes or Tide or something like that. So I was pretty sure I was against tri-lane. So I started the item build of Tangos, Sentries, and the recipe, and I'm just sitting there. I'm just chilling, and I'm chilling for several reasons. One, I clicked on the Ursa's items. I can't click it right here, but there, like my that's me actually clicking on the Ursa right there, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I don't know. I definitely clicked on the Ursa and saw some dust, which is a very big sign right then and there. When you see dust on anybody, and you need to play like this every single time as Broodmother. I talk some shit. I wish I hadn't talked shit in this game. Oh man, I gotta actually mute all chat because I'm gonna talk some shit. Because I like to put my opponents on tilt. I'm sorry, okay? I'm not a flamer, I promise. I always talk nice to my teammates, and you can quote me on that. But when it comes to talking to my enemies, I like to put them on tilt. Okay, call me a flamer, call me a muter, whatever. Anyways, though. And if anybody starts dust, that means if their carry starts their dust, if their supports start dust, but you don't know that they started dust because you don't see them, it doesn't matter. You got to play safe. If you don't know their support started dust, just assume they did, and assume that they're sitting right there, right over here, just waiting for you to show yourself for one last hit, so that they can run out, use their dust, use their little CC, and then kill you at first blood. Okay, no matter what, just play like they're out to kill you, because they probably are. You're a Broodmother, and that's what they want to do. They want to kill you. They want to kill the Brood. They want to kill the Spider. They hate the Spider. Itsy Bitsy Spider. They hate that song. That was like their worst nursery rhyme. So you need to play. Look at this crap, man. This guy's just walking out here. Does he have vision of me? I think he does. Yeah, they got a sentry over here, and look at this tri-lane, just nonsense, bullcrap. So I'm playing cautiously, and as you should as well. I am totally a-okay with being 2 minutes in and having 0 last hits. Is that what I got? Let's check the last hits, because this is actually somewhat of an important element of tracking Brood as well. Here we go. I am completely okay with having 0 last hits and 0 denies. You could, for all intents and purposes, I've had no impact this far, and I love it. I love it because so have their heroes. I mean, not all of their heroes. Their Ursa. I'm using the word impact kind of lucratively here. What I really mean is like their Ursa's been down here and he's farming and he's the safe lane core, so that's what he's supposed to do. So he's doing his job, right? But their 2 supports are. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're definitely doing somewhat of their job, which is to keep the Broodmother under control, make sure I don't get too much farm early game and start dominating their safe lane. But at the same time, their safe laner is in a free farm environment, and they're spending 2 other heroes to make sure of that, right? That's a tri-lane that's effectively doing nothing around the map other than worrying about one offlaner. And you'll see, specifically if you start to be a Brood spam, if you become a filthy Brood spammer, you'll see this a lot, is the tri-lanes that you'll go against will spend an exorbitant amount of time in said tri-lane, making sure that the tri-lane isn't going to, making sure that the solo offlane Broodmother isn't going to start running rampant in the lane. And that's exactly what I want them to do, honestly. I don't love getting carried, but I do like the idea of like just, sitting back and being like, okay, like I'll just sit here and let their supports be level 3 at 10 minutes in, because all they did was sit in a lane and they didn't pull because they were afraid that I might dive the tower or start skipping waves. They just sat there and they just literally, look at that Visage and the Disruptor. They're just sitting there just looking at my spiders, right? Maybe they'll kill 1, maybe they'll even kill 2. I don't care. I don't care if they kill 1 or 2 and get 17 gold. You can say at the end of the game, easy GG, I got 50,000 gold on Broodmother spiders. But there's one thing that you can't track, and that's, am I going to die here? No, I just TP because because this is a good play. It's a pretty scary play, no doubt. And those sentries are something that I'm trying to take out, but it's kind of hard to pinpoint them, and also like I don't want to get in a clicking battle where I don't have lane position or lane control rather. But nonetheless, right? This is all completely fine. And you, if you're going to get into Broodmother, you have to be okay in these circumstances of realizing, hey, like, I don't have very many last hits right now. It's 4 minutes in. I'm only level 4. That's not even a bad, honestly, level 4 at 4 minutes for the off lane against a tri lane isn't even that bad. But, you know, I'm sitting in lane. You're keeping the supports in lane, and that's the important part of this of this laning stage. So I'm going to go Pop of Clarity. I'm trying to pinpoint their sentries. I'm damn sure that I have it, or at least in my mind here, I had an idea of where one was. I was just waiting for the lane to push out. Turns out that I just barely missed the sentry that I was looking for, but it actually ends up working in your favor as a Broodmother, because unlike Bounty Hunter and Ricky, if you place a sentry and you miss the enemy sentry as Brood, that means that you at least know where you have a safe spot, right? Because if you have a sentry on the ground and you don't know where, and you didn't find their sentry, then at least you know where you can stand, because they don't have a sentry there. You know, you didn't find their sentry, but that doesn't necessarily mean. I mean, you didn't find their sentry, but you know that they don't have a sentry there, and that works to Brood's favor, where it doesn't work in the other heroes' favors, because Bounty and Ricky usually roam. I mean, if you're gonna lane Bounty Hunter, then that can work in your favor. But I'm just trying to say, Broodmother very, very often is not even very often. In like 10 out of 10 cases, you'll have a Broodmother in a lane, right? And so if she uses, and that was a shitty Q, by the way, but try to avoid that. That's such a annoying feature in the game. I'm getting a little sidetracked, but on the reels, like that cannot game, like, it's not a game losing, but that is definitely lane losing. If you cast your Q on a dying creep and you don't hit the creep with your Q to finish the last hit, then you won't get your spiders, and it's really tilting, because that's a lot of spiders that I just missed out on. But regardless, you know, you can use your sentries to kind of gauge out where the enemy sentries are, and if you can't find the enemy sentries with your sentries, then at least you know where you can stand as a hero and remain invisible, right? I hope that kind of makes sense. It makes sense in my mind. So anyways, we found that next sentry there. Again, all I'm really trying to do in this lane is just soak EXP and trying to get as many levels as possible. This hero in the early game, I mean, don't get me wrong, like I said earlier, she's definitely item dependent hero, more so than a lot of others. But in the early game, like many heroes, don't get me wrong, again, probably every hero in the game to some degree is level dependent. In the early game, levels are just often considered more important than farm, except for in a very few niche cases where you get one item. And Brood's also very similar to this. In the early game, if Brood can get a Medallion of Courage, you can do some very abusive things. But you know, you're just trying to get like your Q up. You're trying to level your Q ups, your nuke basically, so that you can get as many spiders early on, so you can dominate most lanes as long as they don't have any AOE. And again, we'll talk about other matchups in a second, or in a few minutes. But when we look at another replay, but for the most part, this is what you're trying to do in very, very aggressive tri lanes. Disruptor, Visage, Ursa. You know, that's a lot of burst damage, and it's a fair bit of lockdown, especially with Disruptor. You know, I'm trying my absolute best to bide my time and just play this lane safe. And until I see signs of opportunity to go aggressive. So right there we go for a kill. I just didn't have webs. I was trying to kind of dodge around the kinetic field there. Maybe that was a kill if I had just played that better. But nonetheless, I either sent that Disruptor back to base. I think that's actually what he ends up doing. Yeah, I send him straight back to base, or I make him go use a shrine inefficiently, because, you know, the Ursa's not around here. Ursa's top. You know, they might not even have their shrine up. Either way, it's putting him out of lane. It's giving me more free farm environment. I got level 7. It's 7 minutes in, almost 8. I'm totally fine with how this lane's been going thus far. There's no way I kill this guy here because I don't have any more webs. But I'm definitely pushing him out. He can't sit here and lead GXP here, and this lane that was once pretty uncomfortable to be in is now completely safe. And you'll notice a few things that I'm doing. So first and foremost, I'm gaining hegemony over this lane, but I'm not abusing it. So I'm sending spiders out to the left and the right and up, and I'm trying to make them do most of the majority of the last hitting for me, simply because I want to remain safe. I don't want to take it. I don't want to like take the fact that I have control over this lane and kind of thrust it in their face and be like, "Yo, guys, I run this lane now," because that's a really easy way to die. Overconfidence is a very slow and insidious killer, especially for Broodmother players. So, you know, Magnus just TP'd down here. I see both their supports. Ursa's still missing. Turns out he's right there in spectator view. We can hear him, but I didn't know that he's there. One thing's for sure though, I definitely know that like 3 heroes are on this side of the map, and as far as I'm concerned, that's a win in and of itself, right? If they're gonna send 3 heroes down to my lane just to sit here and make sure that Broodmother's not doing anything crafty, then I have no problem just sitting here and soaking up some EXP when it's most convenient. Here I get hit by this. I think this was another very scary situation that I do live from. I think he does glimpse me though, doesn't he? Yeah. Oh, I might die here. Oof, I do die here. This is a very unfortunate situation. from it's nobody's fault. I could have stood still, or Putch could have thrown his hook a little bit differently. It was just an unfortunate situation. Nobody really to blame, but our lack of communication, which again is kind of both of our faults. So if you want to blame somebody, it's both of our faults. Nonetheless, though, the important thing out of this is that sure they got their kill on the Broodmother, but that was their first kill that they got on me in 9 minutes, and I think the damage has kind of been dealt to some degree, right? They spent a lot of heroes just being here, just doing like, you know, essentially nothing for the first 9 minutes of the game, and they finally got one kill, and it took still to even get the kill, it took all their heroes. A lot of space has been made on the map. Now, my team isn't particularly winning in the kill department, right? 6-4, which is unfortunate in and of itself. Oftentimes, you'll find in games like this where you'll play as Broodmother, if you make your space and you do it right, the score will just be something like 1-9, and you'll be your only team's death, and that's just because you made some blummer mistake. But I mean, for the majority of the game, you're staying incredibly defensive. You're occupying 3 heroes' time, and they can't roam around the map. Unlike if it was another offlaner like a Timbersaw, people often just give up on that lane and just go to another lane and accept what the Timbersaw is going to do. People like to stay in Broodmother lanes and try their absolute best to like really beat a Brood down, because they don't accept the terminality of a Broodmother lane, where it's very much like a Timbersaw. You know, Timbersaw hits level 3, you just leave the lane in some cases, because it's like, well, we can't kill him, he has 10 armor and 10 regen, or 12 regen, or 12 regen and 5,000 armor. Broodmother's a lot of the same way, but people don't often realize that. So they'll overstay in Broodmother lanes and leech EXP from their safe laners so that I can hit level 6 before him and just end up killing them really, really easily, etc. so forth. You know, I'm not saying that Brood's a cheesy hero, but in some cases she can seem like it because you'll play against unsuspecting players. Regardless of all that, though, what's been happening in this lane so far, it's somewhat, we'll speed through this pause here. What's been happening in this lane so far is pretty standard, pretty run of the mill, you know, for tri lanes anyways. This is about as by the dozen as it gets. You'll play against a tri lane. They'll get a lot of safe farm on their safe laner, but they'll split EXP. Sometimes they will pull, but in the majority of cases, even if they pull, you can spread webs over there and at least leech EXP. They did make a change in 7.01, in 7.0 actually, to make creep denied experience. Like when the creeps kill when your creeps get killed, when the enemy creeps get killed by neutrals, as if to say they pull, the enemy pulls creeps, their creeps into the neutrals, and you sit by and you're leeching the EXP. It used to be like 35% of the EXP was awarded to you. They made it so that it's 50%, which is the exact same as a normal deny. So, and Brood can do this better than a lot of offliners. If you just set a web next to the enemy pull camp and they're pulling, you'll get the same amount of EXP as you would if you were getting denied, which still sucks. But it's better than nothing, and I found in most cases when they pull, it's actually beneficial to Broodmother's case, much the same way it's beneficial to like an Undying, because if you gank an Undying, or not gank an Undying, if you pull against an Undying and he's already level 3, then there's a pretty good chance he can just drop Tombstone and go kill your safe laner, and drop it under tower, because now he has a creep wave, you don't have a creep wave, he can drop Tombstone, it can tank tower, it can tank stuff all day, and he can just go and kill your safe laner because he has the creep advantage. Broodmother's, like I just mentioned, she holds a lot of those similar traits. So regardless, you get one rotation as a Broodmother and you go kill people, because Brood is so ridiculously good at assisting rotations. No matter what build you go, and you may say, build, what the heck are you talking about? I'll explain that in a second, but whether you're going spiders or not, you can assist rotations insanely well. You're like the only offlaner in the game that I can think of anyways, that has like essentially the opportunity at least to have a perma-slow on demand. You'll have Medallion in most cases, because it's very easy to build on Brood. You can get the entire components of Medallion from the side shop, and she's one of the few offliners that actually builds the item. So you can take away 7 armor. So even if a support, say Lion, is ganking your lane, suddenly he's right-clicking for like 60 or 70 damage, as well as, you know, bringing his stuns and stuff to the table. You have enormous amounts of damage with spiders, and even if you don't go the spider build, you still have enormous amounts of damage with Insatiable Hunger. This thing's like a freaking 60 attack damage steroid in the early game. It also gives you like unmatched lifesteal, so you can man fight almost anyone with or without evasion. I'm talking about PAs and shit. you are insanely good at just getting one rotation. It doesn't take the whole team. It's another brilliant thing about Broodmother is if you want to rotate and kill their safe laner, sometimes you can just do it by yourself. But other times where the safe laner gets their 4-man shield and crap like that, you might have to call on one support to assist to get a gank. But it's not much. It's literally just one support. It's as easy as a Pudge Hook or a Rasta Shackle in this game, and we could kill any one of their teammates. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. So anyways, we're watching a bit of this game unfold. My team is doing the cool thing of fighting on your side of the map in the mid game. You always love this as Broodmother because you'll have a lot of your webs set up here. You'll have a spider army here, so you have like an extra, I don't know, say 150 damage just from that alone, and that's a constant source of damage as well. That's just kind of like omnipresent. You can also use them for vision and scouting and shit like that. You can sick them on supports, and before you know it, you just get a free kill, kind of like Techie's mines. They're just walking around, and boom, they just die after a few swipes of your spiders. It's quite disgusting. I love it when my team fights on my side of the map as Broodmother. In some games, in other games, it's just not plausible. You just can't do it. You just can't fight their team early game with or without a Broodmother in the early game. You just got to accept that and play the space creation game. I'm talking about those games where maybe they'll have a Tide Hunter and like an Enigma or some crap like that. They just have insane team fight ultis where it doesn't matter if your team is fighting on your side of the map and you get sick picks. It's just impossible. So here, it's a great example of like using the spiders there to kind of somewhat, I don't know, bait people. And we'll go over more technical plays like this as well. But in this case, Luna gets a stun and is doing some stuff. I sent my spiders in. Now, you could call this as like spider feed or whatever, but I'd argue if you look closer, this could have been spider saving the Luna's life, because I'm pretty sure, no, he didn't have blink, but Magnus's decision there to go for the spiders instead of skewering towards my Luna and trying to throw an RP out might have saved her life. And you can do that a lot with Brood. Is people like see Brood spiders and they get like big money bags in their eyes, kind of like with Chen creeps. They often don't realize the price of going for Broodmother spiders, costing them time that they could be spending to get a lot of CS in return. And we'll see that a bit, hopefully, in some of these other games that I get to show, where you'll make your spiders and you'll get your levels up in the early game, and then you'll have like, say, 20 spiders, 20 spiderlings, maybe a few spiderites, and maybe the enemy killed a few of them in the early game, but then you just right-click creeps to deny them, and you can deny them from half HP in an instant. And then all of a sudden, you're playing the Quas Exhort Invoker game, where you have your 2 Forge Spirits up, or in Brood's case, you have like 20 spiders, and you deny every single creep that comes up and gets to half HP. Doesn't matter if the enemy is Treant Protector with a Quelling Blade, or an Iron Talon even, and like 5,000 bonus strength. You'll kill the creep quicker than him, because you're invisible. You attack. They don't have vision of you to see when you're going to deny the creep. It's very difficult to outlast it a Broodmother, for that being one of the very good reasons. Also, she doesn't have the best of base damage, but with a Quelling Blade and some spiders, you quickly become somewhat of like a Bat Rider, where your low base damage becomes very deceptive because you have so many ways of amplifying it. That's why Bat Rider has low base damage, is because of his Q. Brood's got pretty low base damage. She's got like 47 base damage, because with a few spiders, all of a sudden, you don't have 47 base damage. You have like 70 or 80, Throw an extra 5 on top of that, all of a sudden you're hitting for like 100 damage with your spiderlings. 20, right there, that little pack that you're looking at right now, that's like 9 spiders right there. Spiders have an average damage of 16. That's like an extra 100 to 180 damage that I have between those spiders and myself. Throw a Medallion of Courage on that. Obviously, you're not going to be using Medallion of Courage to deny your own creeps, but this is talking in the damage portion of Broodmother, and this is why the spider build is a very popular, and I'd say in some ways it's kind of overrated. Not overrated, but just kind of overused, maybe misunderstood is really the way, is that people do get this big boner for like their damage and their ability to kill heroes when they have this many spiders. Broodmothers do specifically. So in this case, I do think I die here. All I can say is face made. I'm just kidding, but in all seriousness, right? The amount of sentries that they've dedicated to this lane, we can just take a quick look on their perspective, as well as that's a 3-hero rotation. There's definitely a sentry here. Is it this new client kind of sucks for checking stuff out? I'll go to the fog for the radiant. They have a ward here. They had a sentry over here, and they used a dust to kill me over there. I'd venture to say they had more sentries on their side of the map too, over here, that may have. They've definitely spent more than just this in terms of detection. I didn't actually know that they had a ward behind their tower. It's a clever place to ward against a Broodmother, especially if she's taken the tower, because she'll often be around this area and then also farming these before she's taken the tier 2. So that's pretty intelligent on their part. I'll give them that for sure. And I go down there. And it's important to keep in mind, right? I went down there and that sucks, and OD went down on my map, on my side of that too. In some cases, right, like, you will lose games as Broodmother. I'm not saying she's the most overpowered hero in the game by any means. You know, in some cases, you won't be making space. What you'll be doing is you'll be chain feeding your life in a bunch of spiders, and you'll lose the game, and you'll think in your mind, oh man, well, Wired said that I was making space, but as it turns out, I was just feeding. What gives? What's the difference between making space and feeding? Making space, as far as Broodmother is concerned, is when you throw, not throw. Throw's the wrong verb to use here. Making space is, as far as Broodmother is concerned, when you're not on a godlike kill spree, right? So you're dying, you're feeding. How much did I feed there? 400. Oh man, I can't push enter and see. Come on, Valve. What are we doing? So I died for 406 gold, but there were 4 heroes that rotated to kill me. That, in my mind, is a pretty good example of space. So the person that killed me, yeah, it sucks that they got like a good 300 gold or something like that. The rest of their heroes got maybe 90, we'll say. We'll say a good 90 gold, right? Maybe they got a little bit more if they kill spiders there, but I don't think they even really killed that many spiders there when they killed me earlier. And again, they rotated 4 heroes, which has more than just a gold implication to it as well. But even if we're just going to look at the gold impact of that, like, that many heroes dedicated to a lane, plus the amount of detection that they spent just to do it. Well, like, they could have been farming and taking up space on the in their jungle, in the other lanes that are available. You'll notice this is bot lane. There can only be one person really farming a lane efficiently in one lane at that time. So Ursa and Magnus are 2 cores, and they're sitting here farming the same lane at once because we saw them here. Disruptor might not be needing the farm. Visage might not be needing the farm, but definitely those 2 heroes won't farm, and they can only take a little bit of it. Then maybe they can go farm these 2 camps up here that we just saw, but they're not farming mid, they're not farming top lane, they're not farming this side of their jungle, they're not even really farming the bulk of this side of their jungle. Their primary jungle isn't really getting saturated, their secondary jungle isn't getting saturated, and they're not even really taking too much farm over here. We saw Jug over there, but that's it. That's one free lane that they have that they're just giving up just to come gank little old me. And yeah, sure, they got me. And in that case, they also killed my team too. They killed the OD too. I don't think my team should have been on my side of the map in this case, but they did. But it's the principle behind it, right? In that case, maybe it was worth it. I don't think it was all the same, and in a lot of cases it won't be if you play your cards right. And if you play your cards right, you won't even die. You can evade 90% of the ganks that come at you as a Broodmother if you just play it properly and have your spiders mounted, and not mounted. If you have your spiders placed up and pent up in intelligent locations. Your spiders have 1100 day vision and 800 night vision. That's not a ward, but that's damn close. I mean, especially during the day, like, if you spread these bad boys up, I mean, it's not uncommon to have 20 or 30 spiders under your control at a time as Broodmother. It's very easy to just split them up on different locations of the map. In their jungle, obviously, you don't want to. I'm not trying to send my spiders to top lane, but I'll go put them in their jungle and scout around, such that only a smoke can kill me. Because smoked units would walk past spiders and not pop the smoke, and I wouldn't see them if they were smoked. But then it becomes like this situation where they got to get 4 heroes together. They have to smoke. They also have to have detection, dust, maybe even sentries on top of that. Like, it just becomes so inconvenient for them to kill me that in a pub game you'd be hard pressed to find a team that is that motivated. At that point, it comes down to picks where, if they have a Slardar, they can drastically reduce the difficulty it is for them to kill me, or a Bounty Hunter, or a Spear Breaker, or a Storm Spirit. But even in those cases, you'll just adapt your playstyle and play tighter. You'll say, okay, there's a Storm Spirit in the game, so I'll be farming a lot with my spiders and keeping my main hero in the trees, and that's a very viable tactic. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever of doing that as Broodmother. So anyways, I hope that I've kind of given you guys a good idea of how I try to play the early to mid game, just in theory. In practicality, it's just as easy as it sounds. You go to the lane with those items. First item I always go, if I'm going the spider build, which is kind of primarily what we're talking from the perspective of, is getting a soul ring as quickly as possible. I usually go a 0-1-0-0 build. Into like a 1-2 build where I'll in terms of my skill, but I kind of made that a little bit more complicated than I need to. You obviously always start spin webs, then you get spawn spiderlings. You do not hesitate to use spawn spiderlings at level 2. Yes, you will only be getting 1 spider from it, but 1 spider is enough. 1 spider is enough because you can propagate it out to many spider rights, which, even though they're not that great, it's enough to get the ball rolling. You can't wait till level 4 or even level 3 on Broodmother to start casting this ability, because I've seen some Broodmothers, they go like a 2-1 build at level 3 where they get 2 points in spawn spiders and they leave their spin webs at level 1. You can't really do that if you're going the spider build. You need your webs, and you need them quickly. You need to have that at least 4 webs. At level 2, you get access to having 4 max webs. You can't just play this hero with 2 webs all the way up until level 4. In my opinion, in most games, at least in most games, 2 webs just isn't enough to cover the lane. So especially in a hard tri lane, you want to get more webs as quickly as possible, so you can make it more difficult for them to cover the map, or at least that lane with sentries. So you want to cast this ability at level 1, and you don't have that much mana to do it. You have about 2 casts of spawn spiders in the early game before you need your Soul Ring. So you got to make sure they land. You got to make sure they don't happen where you cast the Q like I talked about earlier, where you cast it and then mid animation or mid projectile of it trying to collide on the creep that you're casting it on, the creep that you're casting it on dies, and then you don't get the spider. That is a no-no. If there's any time to watch and make sure that doesn't happen, it's definitely in the early game as Broodmother. The way you ideally want to play it out is you get both casts of your spawn spiderlings give you the spiders that you need, and then from there you try to. It doesn't even matter if you're getting last hits with the first few. You want to make sure you're just building up a spider army. So you want to have that first spider that you spawn from it start attacking creeps that are half HP. Doesn't matter if it's a deny. Doesn't matter if it's a last hit. Doesn't even really matter if you get the creep kill at that point, because you only have your 1 spiderling and your main hero. It's kind of hard to get kills with that. You just want to start getting spiderites, and then once you get 3 or 4 of them, and you still have your initial spiderling and your main hero, you officially have about 100 base damage right then and there. If you attack in unison, you should be able to get last hits with that. From there, like I said, you want to complete your Soul Ring, and then usually you want to go like either Blightstone. You don't want to get boots. You try to avoid boots. You either want to get Blightstone, Sage's Mask, just some components to Medallion of Courage, and you want to get that up as quickly as possible, because once you get Medallion of Courage, you can start killing heroes. It doesn't matter if you're a level 3 Broodmother with level 1 spawn spiderlings, you can start killing heroes with Medallion of Courage. Quick disclaimer, you'll never be that farmed that early in the game. But usually it's about, I've noticed it's about level 7, maybe even 6 if I'm having a good lane where I can just really get the ball rolling and start, like, if I'm against those, dude, what's a great safe lane? Good safe lane examples is like bad dual lanes with like Ursa. So Ursa doesn't have that much base damage, he just has Fury Swipes. In this game, he had a pretty strong tri lane, but if it's like an Ursa and an Omni Knight, dude, you can get your items really quickly, because those heroes have pretty poor base damage. Omni Knight doesn't, but Ursa definitely does, and you can very much abuse Ursa's really diminished amount of AoE, and Omni Knight doesn't want to spam his heal out unless he, in the early game, in that early of the game, you can get your items up really quickly, get a Medallion of Courage really quickly, and start throwing it and pressuring that lane very heavily. So yeah, once you get Soul Ring, you go towards Medallion of Courage. Once you get Medallion of Courage, your item choice branches off, but you definitely, in my opinion, want to go most games at least Soul Ring and Medallion of Courage if you're going the spider build. We'll talk again. I will talk about the build and skill build if you're not doing spiders, but if you're going spiders, so yeah, those 2 items are very important. Soul Ring, specifically with Tango's recipe, 2 Soul Ring and sentries at the start of the game. Then you go complete the Soul Ring when you're in your lane, trying to cast your level 1 spiders, getting your farm up, etc. so forth. Then you go Medallion of Courage, and then you try to pressure the lane and get kills, and you try to play very safely, but also very aggressively at the same time. Brood's one of the very few heroes that can do that, where she's very defensive in her offense, and then also vice versa. And yeah, you just kind of want to do that. Bounce between your first and your second ability up until level 8. I generally don't get my ulti if I'm going the spider build until like level 9 or even level 10. Sometimes I'll just max these 2 abilities out, and I'll be so low on mana at the time that I'll just get in-cap bite. You definitely always make sure you have 2 points in Insatiable by level 12 though. Don't skip this ability just because you're out of mana when you're out and about, because it's hard to get your levels past level 12. Level 12 is the new level 11, where it takes a long time to get from level 12 to level 13, and you don't want to have 0 points in Insatiable Hunger at level 12, because it's a long level gap, and you'll often find yourself in situations where this is a pretty good ability, and you'll want it. You'll want the 2 points specifically in it. 90% lifesteal and 90 bonus damage definitely beats out 2 extra points in cap bite if you have the mana for it, and you'll have the mana for it. If you have Soul Ring and you have your Medallion of Courage, and you're in the mid game just trying to pressure towers, you'll have your webs in places where and you're casting Soul Ring every single time it's off cooldown to make sure you're, saturating your mana well, and you're not, basically you're trying to keep a healthy number of spiders up, and you're not repositioning your webs too much because you have them in the right places. You should have enough mana for in-cap or for Insatiable Hunger when you need it. So yeah. And then from there, obviously, you just max out your abilities. Talents, we'll talk about these very quickly. I very much struggle to justify the 15% EXP growth on Broodmother. I don't see it being. I've got my own complaints. Maybe it's warranting for a secondary video in and of itself. Not just that talent, but like the talents that I hate to see in the game are the EXP talents, the gold talents, and then to a lesser extent the death timer reduction talents. Those are like the three, in my opinion, weakest ones. And I've read articles on like Dota Buff and stuff about how they're kind of also pretty bad too. That might be swaying my opinion a little bit. I don't know. Dota Buff's run by like 2K players, so maybe I shouldn't be. I'm just kidding. I don't know how fluid my opinions are on these talents. I've tried in exhaustion the 15% EXP talents or EXP talent on Broodmother. I've gotten Midas on this hero. I actually do really like Midas on this hero in certain situations, and I'll talk about those when I go to the No Spider build. But even in those situations, I don't find that the 15 EXP gain talent is ever really worth it. Compared especially to the 10 agility. 10 agility is like 10 extra attack speed, 10 extra damage, and an armor and a half. That's pretty good on Broodmother. She benefits a lot from every single one of those stats. And I often find myself thinking like, it sounds a little weird, but if 10 agility gets me a kill that I otherwise wouldn't have, then that's like a boost in EXP gain that I wouldn't have otherwise gotten had I have taken the EXP gain talent. Not to say that it's enough to compensate for where 15% EXP gain would get me, but it helps. 10 agility is 10 extra agility that you can farm with quicker, that you can kill creeps with quicker, that you can kill heroes with quicker, that you can survive with quicker, and it can get you the EXP that you would have gotten that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So that's in some ways that's how I've been looking at the talent a little bit more. It's also important to note 10 agility is a lot of agility in the early game. It's a blade of alacrity. It's 1,000 gold worth in value in terms of just a raw item. Obviously, blades of alacrity isn't a cost-efficient item. You're paying 100 gold per stat point there, whereas Iron Branch is like 50 gold for 3. So I'm not saying that Blades of Alacrity, it is a free Blades of Alacrity, but it's not like a free 1,000 gold. That'd be an incorrect way to look at it. The way I look at it is it's a hefty amount of agility. It's definitely noticeable, and it's solid. It's going to benefit you all throughout the game, even in the late game. So I usually take the 10 agility stat bonus, and I do actually take that at level 10. Some people skip, and there are some heroes where it's correct to skip your level 10 talent over another stat point. I personally don't do that. I think 10 agility, it just helps you too much with farming comparative to another point in in-cap bite, because you could have this build right here at level 12. I'm level 13, but you could have this build at level 12 if you don't take your talent tree point. I don't do that. I favor 1 point in this ability, and I do take the 10 agility talent just because I do. Again, I favored this more than I do 2 points in this. But that's not to say 2 points in in-cap bite isn't good. In-cap bite's an amazing ability. And again, we'll talk about that with the No Spider build. But yeah, so that's my build. Sorry. So that's my justification for the first talent tree. Second talent tree, I don't really ever take the 7 armor. Not to say that 7 armor isn't good. Armor's great on Broodmother, for the record. You do often find yourself man-fighting with this hero in situations, in games. I'd say half my games, I have to be a frontliner for my team. So it's not to say that 7 armor isn't a great talent tree. It's just that 20% CDR is insane on Broodmother. It's absolutely ridiculous. Helps your webs out enormously, right? 20% CDR. So I think that brings this down to 32 seconds. I can't remember. 20%, 25% would be 10 seconds off. So 20%, yeah, that's 8 seconds. That's 8 seconds off your charge restore time for your webs. That brings it down to a 32-second cooldown instead of 40-second cooldown. That's great. That is amazing when you don't have your level 25 on this hero. And even when you do, when you do have your level 25 and you have your 8+ max webs, because you always take that talent. We'll talk about that in a sec. Even when you do have it, it's really nice to have 8 seconds less on spin web. But not just that. Suddenly, Insatiable Hunger becomes like a 35-second, 34-second cooldown, and that's amazing in and of itself. You get like it's 20% off of this. That's 2 extra seconds. This drops down to an 8-second cooldown, and also Broodmother builds like all active items. It helps Midas. That's the real kicker. People say, oh man, 15% EXP gain is so good with Midas. What about the 20% CDR talents from the talent tree? That benefits Midas, benefits your Solar Crest. Solar Crest doesn't stack in that way, but it helps you when you cast your Solar Crest on a target and you realize quickly that like you want to cast on somebody else very quickly into a fight. Like you cast on one person, maybe you screw up, or maybe like you cast on somebody and you realize, oh man, I really want to cast it. I want my Solar Crest up because the person that I'm buffing now doesn't need to get buffed, or the person that I'm nerfing now doesn't need to get nerfed anymore. It brings it down from a 5 or 7 second cooldown to like a 5.5 or 5.2 second cooldown, which is very noticeable. So it doesn't stack, but it refreshes it on a different target of your choosing. And I build primarily active items on Broodmother. Like, Soul Ring is one of them, but you eventually trade that out. But Solar Crest, sometimes I go Mjolnir. Let's just bring up my shop tab. BKB it helps with, which is pretty crazy. Like, Phase Boots, sometimes I go, sometimes I like to favor Power Treads in some cases. We'll talk about that. It's changed a little bit. I really used to like Phase Boots, but I'm starting to veer more towards Power Treads, just because of the front lining thing that I was telling you about earlier. It doesn't help Radiance, which I do go sometimes on Broodmother, and we'll talk about that. But it helps, like I mentioned, Midas. Excuse me. Mjolnir, Lincoln's in some cases. Yeah, it just... I find myself building a lot of active items on Broodmother. Her skills are almost reason enough to get the 20% CDR, but it's just amazing talent, really, is what I'm trying to get at. And yeah, I highly recommend, if nothing else, if you take nothing else from this guide, understand that this hero is very much... I'm just kidding. That's not the most important thing to take away from this guide, but that is an important thing to know, is the CDR is very much... an amazing talent on Broodmother, and I'd like to see it. Just as a quick side note, like, I'd like to see 20% CDR talents on a lot of other heroes too. Like, I think Earth Spirit needs one, but maybe it's a level 25 talent, because that'd be OP as fuck if it was at level 15. Anyways, 20% CDR would be great, or is great, and then level 20. The level 20 talent is kind of like a noob trap. People that take 300 health, over 50 attack speed on Broodmother probably don't really understand how Insatiable Hunger works. 50 attack speed lets you get Insatiable Hunger procs off wickedly quickly, compared to without 50 attack speed, such that you'll probably gain more health than 300 health will give you, especially with the BKB on Broodmother, with the 50 bonus attack speed. So don't get jebaited. Take 50 attack speed and trust that you'll be able to get several auto attacks off in a fight to make up for the 300 health that you would lack if you took the other talent. And then the God talent, here it is. It's level 25. You can have 200 spider health, which is just disgustingly terrible. Or, holy crap, the holy grail of everything, 8 max webs. That is so Craigasm, dude. That takes this ability and doubles it in terms of your max webs. Suddenly, you are a map controlling god. You control the entirety of the map. It is amazing. This hero goes from, like, I don't know. You go from controlling like a quarter of the map to a half of the map, basically, and it's just so sick. People always have to be afraid whenever they're walking. If you're sieging the enemy team, they always have to be afraid to walk outside because you have webs everywhere. It's disgusting. Always take the +8 max webs. I could never see a situation where you take anything that's not it. And yeah, it's very important to keep in mind that you always take 8 max webs, because I have seen Broodmothers. I don't see them too often, because usually I'm either picking it or this is just an uncommon hero in general. But I have seen people take plus 200 spiders health, and it does work on spiderites. I'll give it that, but it's never worth it. Fuck spiders, dude. They're great, but in that late of the game, by that late stage of the game, you won't be using to split push or anything like that. 200 health won't really save them. It'll save them from a nuke, I guess, but it's 8 max webs is so much better. It'll probably save your spiders too if you're really that concerned with split pushing with them, more so than anything else, because you can suddenly put 8 extra webs in a certain lane that you're not even team fighting in, and just constantly have spiders there pushing web. And I haven't actually tried that, but I kind of want to try that now that I've talked about it for a bit. So anyways, yeah, that's our talents. That's the spider build. We'll look at a little bit more of this game, because this is the important aspect of the gameplay style that I was talking about, that I've changed since I've started to since my last Brood guide, where I start to group with my team more, and I guess it feels important to talk about this. So I'm coming to team fights. I'm showing up to team fights more. We got Roche. Luna took Roche one of the times when we were fighting, and now my team's fighting bottom. I actually want to get rid of the shop there, and I got a Solar Crest. I've got like 4k gold. I was gonna buy. I often find myself, and you might find yourself in these situations as well, where you've just got this huge lump sum of gold on Brood because she makes it so quickly. She basically spits money if you're playing her right. You can always take one lane and have spiders in another lane farming, so it's pretty incredible. And I just have so much money that I don't know what to do with it, because I can't assess the game correctly. I was thinking like BKB's a good good item here, but it's also kind of not because of RP, and Disruptor could get an Axe. It doesn't really help me too much against their physical right clickers, but it's very, very good against Disruptor up until he gets an Axe. Even if he gets an Axe, it can be pretty good if I can use it before Glimpse gets switching back. It's great against Visage. In some cases, it's alright against Jug, kind of. I'm already pretty good against Jug because I can, unless he has detection, his Omni Slash doesn't work. It's okay against Ursa Slow. It's really good against Dust, obviously, just always, but it doesn't help me out at all against RP, so I was kind of siding against it. I finally decided to get it, and I don't even actually get my BKB until like 20 minutes later, and that was a game throw on my part, and you'll see what I'm talking about as we speed through this replay. It takes me a while to realize that I don't even have my BKB, so I called it. I didn't. Somebody screwed up the courier, and I just never. I mean, fuck that person that screwed up the courier, because that screwed up my courier, dude. Like my BKB's on the courier, and I have not gotten, and I will not get it for the next 20 minutes. So it's pretty crazy. Like I'm just sitting here with these 3 items for the next 20 minutes, thinking, man, I thought I had more gold than this. Sorry, I thought I bought an item, but it just didn't click in my head. I don't usually make that mistake though. Trust me. So we grouped up, we took that mid tower. Pudge got a good hook on the Magnus, and once we killed him, that was pretty much curtains for that tier 2 because they can't defend with other Magnus. Solar Crest, so you don't just get Mach for the early game. Solar Crest, especially with the recent buff that they gave it, is like, I'd say it's like one of the quintessential core items on Broodmother now in my mind. It's almost as core, I think, as Soul Ring. It's in some games it's even more core, because I even find myself sometimes skipping Soul Ring in the No Spider build. I skip Soul Ring, but I'll still get Solar Crest. Solar Crest is so amazing on Broodmother because whether you won't need to frontline or not, you can always help your team out and be with your team with Solar Crest, your Q, and your webs, and just 1 or 2 auto attacks. So basically, this is how it works, and I tested this out with my stream a while back. Mischance is not the same as evasion in terms of how it stacks. So we all know, or most of us know, evasion stacks multiplicatively. It even says it stacks diminishingly with other sources of evasion. When you get evasion as a stat, it's very similar to like magic resistance, where you'll get, say, 35% evasion, and then you'll get like 15% extra evasion on top of that because of whatever, I don't know, a talent. But you won't actually be at 50% evasion, even though math would deem it so, right? 35% evasion from Butterfly, 15% because of a talent. That adds up to be 50, but it's not actually 50. It's like, I don't know, it's like 45 or like even 43 because it stacks diminishingly. It stacks multiplicatively. So it takes the 2 values and it multiplies them together or some crap like that, and then it or some, I don't know. I don't know the exact formula. I just know that it's significantly less, not significantly. It's a fair bit less than the actual value that it would add up to if it actually just added up additively, if evasion worked that way. Mischance is not that way though. Mischance stacks additively, which means that when you apply in-cap bite to a target and Solar Crest, you get to straight up add those values. Do you see where I'm getting at here? In-cap bite is a 60% mischance that you apply to the enemy. On top of that, you have a Solar Crest, which adds another 25% mischance to the opponent. Suddenly, your opponent has a 15% chance to hit, or more specifically, they have an 85% mischance applied to them. I get Radiance on a fair bit of my Brood games. If you have Radiance, in-cap bite, and a Solar Crest applied to a certain hero, any hero, right? You can do that to any single hero in the game. They will miss 100% of their attacks. Doesn't matter who they are, unless they have an MKB or, I don't know, they're hitting you with like magical damage or something like that. If they're trying to hit you with right clicks, they will miss 100% of them, okay? And for so many obvious reasons, that is insanely broken. If you can get that combination of items, and it's not that hard. Radiance is like I said, fuck boots. I've gone Radiance first and gotten it up as early as 14 minutes, like Alchemist level and Broodmother, because you can skip boots and you can also farm very quickly from the early game. It's actually just ridiculous. It's one of the reasons why I don't think, it's one of the big reasons why I don't think that Sven counters this hero, because Sven, he's got to get other items first. He can't get like first item BKB, and he gets kited really easily. Because a lot of people think, oh man, Herder, they pick Broodmother, let me get my Sven, let me get my Legion Commander. Dude, pick those heroes, man. I don't give a fuck. I'll get Shiva's Guard for Legion Commanders. I'll get Radiance. I'll get Solar Crest. I'll just right click them with in-cap bite. and it's so ridiculously easy to hit those heroes pre-BKB. They have to rush BKB, not first item, but they have to get it very quickly for you to be somewhat irrelevant. And I say somewhat because you can still play evasively and still buff your team. You know, even if Sven has a BKB, you can still give your team 25% chance to evade attacks, so he's still not like cleaving for monstrous amounts of damage 25% of the time. I know it's still low, it's low, but it's still something. You're giving him 10 armor as well. Yeah, that's kind of all I really want to say about that topic for now. We'll get into it more later, and I have some amazing replays that I wish we could watch. They were on, they were before the 7.0 replay or 7.0 patch, but I played this one game against this Sven where he was just missing every attack in every fight because I would get on him before he could do anything, and it was just gross. For whatever reason, he didn't go BKB or NKB, but it was like a 5k average game, so I don't know. You know, I mean, I'm just saying if it can happen with me in my games, like it'll happen with your games as well. I guess really what I'm trying to get at is do not underestimate the power of mischance in Dota. It's something that I don't think enough people know about, that it stacks additively, and Broodmother takes full advantage of the fact that it stacks additively. So anyways, you get Solar Crest, and you just have an impact on your team. You group in these early game fights. Your main purpose for existing... Ah, man, do I not have all chat muted? Holy crap. I was... Oh, dude. I was playing this game with my friends. Like I said, it was a party set game. But your main purpose for existing in these mid-game fights is to apply Solar Crest on the target that needs it, whether that be your ally or the enemy, doesn't matter. You want to apply Solar Crest to the opponents, or you just want to apply Solar Crest and be useful with it. You have a 280 damage nuke on like an 8-second cooldown. Isn't it 8? I think it is 8, like we established earlier with the talent. You'll usually be around level 15 by this point. And your last, I guess, purpose is to find opportunities to right-click with in-cap bite and your ulti to do some pretty good damage when it's safe and convenient, as well as applying vision. Applying vision? I guess giving vision with spin web. That's like, those are kind of like your 4 cornerstones as a Broodmother, is to early and often apply your nuke, because your nuke is a pretty solid nuke. That's a 280 damage nuke, you know. It's not to be trifled with, I guess, is really what I'm trying to get at. It's a solid nuke. You want to use this. You want to apply vision and just be elusive with this. You know, make the enemy supports buy dust and stuff like that. They're underfarmed because of that. That's one of the reasons. You know, you just want to be a terror with this. You want to be a big terror with these 2 abilities, and you want to be a terror with this item. So that's like the what would you call it? That's your job in these mid game fights. It changes throughout the course of the game, but that's what you're trying to do throughout the mid game. You can see I still don't have my BKB. This is a really sad game. I bought it like 5 minutes ago and I still don't have it. If you're not fighting, the entire map is your farm. You can farm Ancients with Broodmother, especially now because they made them non-spell immune, which means that you can spawn spiders from them, and more importantly, apply Solar Crest to them, which is amazing. You can farm them so quickly with Broodmother. I love it. You can take and also the layout of both jungles favors Broodmother this patch because there's an Ancient stack available for her no matter what side of the map she's on. You can be on your team's jungle. You can be farming the enemy's team jungle. You can be farming both sides of them. You'll always have Ancient stack to hit. It's pretty great. This right here is an unfortunate fight. I don't know if I walked into detection. I don't think they had dust. I know they didn't have gem, but you can see we're kind of fighting some unfortunate fights. That was really just RP hitting 2 cores and we both died. So that wasn't that wasn't a bad fight because Brood's a bad hero. That's just a bad fight because we got initiated on. That would happen no matter what hero I'm playing on. We just got two man RP'd and we died. And they took a wreck. So we'll make the comeback, boys. We'll make it and we'll make it swift. It'll be great. So yeah, what's been happening here thus far, like I mentioned, I just don't have my BKB, which is one big problem of it. But also, we're not really grouping appropriately, if that makes sense. We're not taking the engagements that we want to take. We've been taking the engagements that they have wanted to take. You know, in the later stages of the early game, we took a few fights on their side of the map, which were great. But ever since then, they've been able to get these really good RPs, and it's just kind of been unfortunate. As Broodmother, and again, that's partly my fault because as Broodmother, you want to be applying enough vision, or providing is the word I'm looking for, enough vision such that the enemy never really has the opportunity to get those dream engagements. It's one of the reasons why Monkey King is often considered a very broken hero right now, is because he can give so much vision that you can get the jump on your opponents pretty much always. Broodmother works in much the same way, but people don't talk about her as much because she's like an unknown hero. especially with spiders, but just in general, like you're an invisible hero that can run around the map pretty much the whole time as an invisible hero, kind of like Ricky and Bounty, but less expendably because you have spiders to go with it too. You can give your team the vision advantage where they need it, and this fight isn't an example of this. But this fight is an example of other ways in which Broodmother is a powerful hero, and we'll go over that. So the fight breaks out. They get very, very cocky, for the record, right? They're trying to push in here with no creeps, and they don't have Aegis to do this either. They're just kind of like, their creeps just joined, but that Ursa's been taking tier 3s for a while. He's already at half HP, and I applied Solar Crest on him. Now we put wards up, playing cautiously, and I put Solar Crest on my Luna. And so she's just going to man up, pop BKB, and fight. She's got Solar Crest on her, so she's got 25% evasion, 10 extra armor. Jug isn't doing jack crap with his Omni Slash. That's a very, very powerful thing. She's got Butterfly, too, I think. Yeah, she's got Butterfly. So this is a situation where, remember what I was talking about earlier, evasion stacks diminishingly? Unfortunately, evasion does stack diminishingly with Solar Crest, right? Mischance from Solar Crest stacks additively, but when you put it on your allies, it will stack diminishingly with them if they have evasion themselves. But even still, it's very powerful. She has 35% from Butterfly, and she has an extra 25% from my Solar Crest. That's like she's like PA right now plus Luna, so that's pretty powerful. I think I want to break this video up into 2 parts. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna break. This is an hour long, so I'm gonna break this video up into 2 parts. I'm gonna be. Yeah, I guess just join me into part 2. We're gonna. This is very weird. It sounds weird. I've never done this before, but we're just gonna break it in 2 parts. So I'll see you in part 2.